See yourself waking up on a cold stone floor, the walls shaking from distant impacts, and a smell you can't immediately place. It's smoke, sweat, and something worse. You hear a horn outside. People are shouting. A rock the size of a cow smashes into the tower above you, and dust rains down like the ceiling is about to collapse. You're not dreaming. You're inside a medieval fortress under siege, and you wouldn't last a full day. Not because you're weak, but because siege life was designed to break even the toughest people who ever lived. A medieval siege wasn't some heroic movie battle where knights charge in slow motion. It was a psychological and physical pressure cooker. The attackers didn't need to defeat you honorably. They just needed to trap you, squeeze you, and wait for you to crack. The first thing you'd notice is the noise. Every hour came with a new wave of sound. Siege engines thumping, rocks crashing, arrows clattering, men yelling orders, and injured soldiers screaming. There was no quiet moment. Even at night, the enemy launched fire arrows or tried sneaking up to dig tunnels. Sleep wasn't a luxury. It was almost impossible. Inside the walls, you'd be shoved into overcrowded rooms with hundreds of people who hadn't bathed in weeks. The air was thick with the smell of bodies, waste, moldy grain, and burning pitch. The stress tightened everyone's nerves. Arguments broke out over food, space, and water. No one trusted anyone. The fear that someone might open a gate or send signals to the enemy kept people constantly on edge. Then there was the food problem. Sieges were all about starving you out. The granaries weren't magically full. Once the gates closed, whatever you already had was all you were going to get. Bread became rationed to tiny portions. Meat disappeared fast. Vegetables, forget it. You'd be eating hard, old grains that tasted like dust. As the days dragged on, the portions shrank. Some sieges lasted months, and people ate anything they could find. Rats, weeds, leather, even the glue from shields. You wouldn't last long because your body isn't used to eating starvation rations while doing heavy labor. Every able-bodied person had to help. You'd haul stones, carry water, repair walls, move injured fighters, or stand guard for hours in the cold. There was no break for someone who was tired or scared. You were needed, even if you had never held a weapon in your life. And then you'd meet one of the worst parts of siege life, disease. When you pack hundreds or thousands of people inside walls with little food, poor hygiene, contaminated water, and constant stress, sickness spreads like wildfire. Dysentery, typhoid, and infections were common. A single sick person could infect dozens. Waste had to be dumped somewhere, and usually it piled up. Drinking water mixed with sewage. A tiny cut from a loose stone or a splinter from a wooden beam could turn into a deadly infection. You wouldn't have antibiotics. Most people didn't even have clean cloth to cover wounds. If you walked outside onto the battlements, you'd face the real danger. The enemy wasn't waiting, politely. Archers and crossbowmen aimed at anyone who moved. A quick glance over the wall could end with a bolt in your eye. Stones hurled by trebuchets smashed parapets and sent shards flying in every direction. Heat, cold, exhaustion, and constant fear made every second a gamble. You'd probably panic the moment you saw the enemy's siege engines up close. A trebuchet in action wasn't some cute museum piece. It was a massive wooden monster capable of throwing boulders hundreds of feet. The sound of the arm snapping forward was like a gunshot, followed by the roar of something huge cutting through the air. Even if the rock didn't hit your wall, the vibration shook the entire structure. Your instincts would scream at you to run, but there was nowhere to go. Inside the fortress, the leadership might not be the calm, wise commanders shown in movies. Some lords panicked. Some blamed their own soldiers for failures. Some hid. Some demanded harsh punishments for anyone they suspected of disloyalty. You'd be living in a pressure cooker not just from the enemy, but from your own side. Executions for cowardice or stealing rations weren't uncommon. Another part you wouldn't handle well is the smoke. Defenders constantly burned pitch, tar, or oil to pour over ladders and siege towers. The fumes drifted back inside the walls. Your eyes would sting, your lungs would burn, and breathing would feel heavy. If you had asthma or even a sensitive chest, you'd struggle fast. Water was rationed too. You might get a small cup a day. Washing wasn't even considered. You'd be covered in grime, sweat, and dust. Your hair would be greasy, your clothes stiff with dirt, and your skin constantly itchy from fleas and lice. Everyone had them. You wouldn't be an exception. But every day, men were injured or killed. The injured screamed for help. The dead piled up. During a siege, there wasn't always time to bury them properly. Bodies might be left in corners, in tunnels, or under rubble until someone could move them. You'd smell decay faster than you'd expect. The psychological strain of seeing death constantly wasn't something modern people are prepared for. Even your drinking water could turn deadly. Wells were prime targets. Attackers sometimes tried poisoning water sources or diverting them. If your well wasn't inside the main walls, you'd lose it early. Then you'd rely on stored water that grew stagnant fast. You'd drink it anyway because there was no choice. Around hour 10, you'd hit a wall. Between fear, hunger, and sensory overload, your body would start shaking. Medieval defenders didn't have the option to quit, but you would want to. Your mind would cycle between fight, freeze, and shut down. Modern life hasn't prepared you to watch stones smash roofs, see blood on the ground, or hear the kind of screams that stick with you forever. Around hour 15, sleep deprivation would really kick in. You wouldn't sleep deeply. Every noise would jolt you awake. A horn, a crash, a shout from the gatehouse. Your muscles would ache from the constant tension. Your stomach would feel hollow. Your head would pound from dehydration. By hour 20, your focus would be gone. You'd start making mistakes. Drop a stone. Miss a step. Forget to duck. In siege defense, mistakes were deadly. People died because they blinked at the wrong time, stood in the wrong place, or leaned too far over the wall. And then the attackers might try something terrifying. Tunneling. You'd hear faint scraping, wood creaking, men whispering underground. You'd have no idea where they were. At any moment, a section of the wall could collapse beneath you. The defenders tried counter-tunneling, digging their own pits to intercept the enemy tunnel. Imagine working underground, in darkness, with only a candle, listening for the sound of enemy picks getting closer. You wouldn't last long in that claustrophobic nightmare. If the attackers moved in for an assault, the stress would spike even higher. Siege towers rolled forward. Ladders hit the walls. Hundreds of men climbed toward you with weapons. Ready? You'd be expected to throw stones, pour boiling water, shoot arrows, or push back ladders. Your hands would shake. Your vision would blur. You'd freeze at the worst time. And if the walls finally broke, everything turned into chaos. You'd hear the gate splinter. You'd see defenders running. You'd smell smoke. You'd hear metal clashing. A breach wasn't a normal fight. It was a frantic push of bodies, shields, and desperation. No training means you wouldn't survive a minute in that crush. You wouldn't even know where to stand. Even if the walls didn't fall, your mind might. People during sieges suffered severe psychological stress, panic attacks, breakdowns, hallucinations, and emotional collapse. You'd experience fear on a level you've never imagined. Your brain would feel overloaded, your nerves constantly firing, your body stuck in survival mode. By hour 24, you wouldn't be the same person. You'd be exhausted, dehydrated, hungry, mentally drained, and terrified. And here's the thing. Medieval defenders didn't have the luxury of falling apart. They grew up with daily physical labor, harsh conditions, and a rough understanding of survival. Their baseline tolerance was far higher. Even then, sieges broke them too. A medieval siege wasn't an event. It was a slow, crushing grind that attacked your health, your body, your mind, your senses, and your hope. You wouldn't last 24 hours, not because you're soft, but because everything about siege life was meant to destroy you from the inside out. And the disturbing truth is that for many people throughout history, surviving the first day was the easy part. The real nightmare began when the days turned into weeks. If you enjoyed this journey through Mystery Vault, make sure to subscribe and join us for more mysteries of history and the world around us.